Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar promoted by SECIL Group and SECIL Tech. My name is André Correia. I'm the International Sales Manager for SECIL and SECIL Tech Materials and NHL. So I'm very excited by this opportunity, of course, due to this new reality and restrictions. Of course, we are forced to find new and inventive ways to get to our customers, get to our users, and try to continuously develop our market, of course. So welcome everyone one more time. I would like to say also that we will have around 30-minute presentation about new build and restoration with NHL mortars. And in the end, we will have roughly 15 minutes for questions and answers. So my suggestion would be for you to place your questions during my presentation. That would make it easier for us to select. Of course, probably we will not have time to answer all the questions, but at least to answer most of them. If by any chance some of the questions are unanswered, we will answer it by email, okay? My email will be shown at the end, but also we will answer when you place the questions with my email address, so you can place them, so we can answer them accordingly, okay? So without any further ado, we would start the presentation, and please also give us some feedback in terms of the audio feed. If by any chance is there any issue, please report that to us so we can adapt and make it easier for you to attend, okay? So without further ado, let's start the presentation. I think, okay. Okay, so as I said earlier, this presentation will focus on new build, but mainly restoration, conservation, and rehabilitation with NHL mortars. So NHL as the binder, natural hydraulic lime, and I cannot start to talk about our products and our lime without talking a little bit about our heritage and our history that has been always around innovation and improvement of our solutions. So our company, originally named Fábrica de Cimentos da Maceira, was founded in 1891. So next year we will be 130 years old. And of course, we are proud to be one of the oldest hydraulic lime production units in Europe, still in action. For the ones of you that had a chance to visit, I think it's an interesting plant to visit. Probably some of you will have the chance to do it in the future, hopefully soon. Also in 1990, the company became part of SECIL Group. So the chance to belong to a bigger group with possibilities of international approach to the market. And the example of that is our NHL, which is now exported to more than 20 countries. Okay, this is part of the scenery in the city where we are located. So these are the kilns from our plant. It's something that is immediately identified on the scenery of our city. And these, of course, are some of the pictures of our production process from the kilns up to the burnstone removal, and of course, in the end, the final product. Because this has everything to do also with sustainability, this is a picture of our quarries that are located immediately on the back of our plant, so pretty close to our production facility, which is also interesting in terms of sustainability. So we don't have big transport distances, so it's pretty much managed very easily. Okay, so starting on our mortars, I would start on a product range called REABILITA CAL. Cal is the Portuguese name for lime, and REABILITA, the name says everything, of course. And to try to make it as most comprehensive for you during these 30 minutes, I would divide our REABILITA CAL range or our mortars in different applications or different purposes, okay? So I would start with the consolidation. So I'm starting from the bottom to the end in terms of approach to the walls, to the buildings. So consolidation of masonry, old masonry walls. Then I would focus on our renders. So we have several solutions based on renders for NHL mortars. Then we have the finishes, or the more sacrificial layers in terms of NHL mortars. And then we have specific uses. And here we have combined some mortars for structural reinforcement. For example, Lisbon is a good example for that. We are located in a very seismic area where the seismic activity can be strong. And we have a lot of old buildings where the rehabilitation since the past years has increased a lot. And concern about the seismic reinforcement is also a big concern in terms of the rehabilitation of these old buildings. Okay. Also some flooring solutions and also some repointing because of course part of the heritage, not only in Portugal but all over the world, is maintaining the same facades, sometimes with the stone walls where repointing process is needed. Okay, so starting from the beginning, and here we have the formulation on the NHL mortars. They are industrial mortars. Of course, we distribute a lot of NHL for mortar preparation on the job sites, and this is a reality and must happen, of course. But we also have the premix mortars for certain jobs, for certain applications, where we want to maintain reliability on the mortar used from the beginning until the end of the job site, where we want to facilitate the use of these mortars and application, but without forgetting the most important thing. It's the performance of the mortars, which must be adequate to the substrates and to their use. Okay, so that's what we say about the formulation according to purpose. When we think about rehabilitation mortars or lime-based mortars or NHL-based mortars, we have to think about them with specific mechanical properties. So they have to have a good adhesion, they have to have elasticity modulus similar to the substrate where it's going to be applied. Also in terms of water absorption by capillarity, ideally for the rehabilitation mortars, we want them to be to have a high water absorption on the first 24 hours and then to slightly reduce it along the time, and also maintain a good porosity or water vapor permeability. So this has to do with the additives that we use, mostly in terms of air entrainment agents, and the sand grading that we also use. So this makes an NHL-based mortar with the air entrainment, for example, a low resistance mortar. So sometimes it's a misunderstanding to think about an NHL 3.5 or an NHL 5 industrial mortar as a high resistance mortar. Usually these mortars in the end, they have roughly between 2 to 2.5 megapascals, some of them even lower in terms of mechanical resistance. Of course, we also have to think about the application techniques and things like initial setting and workability of the mortars. So this is something we can adjust on industrial mortars and maintain the same behavior always from the beginning until the end of the job sites. Okay, And of course, think about the building life cycle, the aging, the durability, and one of the most important things also, the need for maintenance. When we think about an intervention on the building and the solution we are choosing to protect it, to make it behave as good as possible, to improve the internal air quality without compromising the breathability of the walls, we are thinking about the need for maintenance. So the more we expand the lifespan of the solutions we are implementing, we are saving money because it's time we don't lose rehabilitating after 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Okay. So, as I stated, the guarantee of the same performance from the beginning to the end of the project, and also the plus of having a specialized technical support from the producer, namely us. Okay, so passing on to the solutions, I would start with the REABILITA CAL system. This is one of the systems that we use more widely, and here it's a system composed of 3 specific mortars and then a paint in the end. Okay, so we are looking at an old substrate, for example, a stone wall, a rubble wall, where we have sometimes to do some interventions in terms of removing the existing. Unfortunately, we see a lot of interventions with cement-based mortars in substrates where lime was only used. So we try to remove as much as possible until we obtain a solid substrate. Sometimes this substrate needs to be consolidated. Sometimes it needs to be filled because we create gaps with existing rubble stone that falls from the substrate. So for that purpose, we use the REABILITA CAL CS, which is a rug sanded mortar for a rug cast, and sometimes to do a scratch coat for these types of substrates. And sometimes when we need an increased reinforcement of the wall, we can use, for example, a fiberglass mesh like our REABILITA AR 160. So this is a 40 by 40 mil mesh that can be introduced in this layer. It can be anchored to the wall when you need a stronger adhesion and reinforcement. And this is a 100% fiberglass mesh with a natural anti-alkaline or alkali resistant for this purpose. After we do this procedure, then we pass on to the rendering or the leveling of the substrates. For that purpose, we use REABILITA CAL RB. This is an NHL-based render for thicknesses around 15 to 20 mil for leveling of the substrates, and with a medium-sized sands. Usually, you could use it as a final layer, but most of our customers, even in Portugal or in other countries, they prefer a more fine sanded finish. So for that purpose, we have the REABILITA CAL AC. So the REABILITA CAL AC, it's a finishing mortar, it's a finishing plaster, NHL plaster, with around 3 mil thickness in the end, and it has this fine sanded finish that looks very, very well, and then it can be finished with a silicate-based paint, which is by far one of the best paints available in the market because it doesn't create a skin. It impregnates in the substrate without creating a barrier, allowing the water vapor to pass on with a very good durability. Of course, further on, I will show you some other options in terms of finishing that don't use these paints, because it's also very traditional to use already colored finishing mortars. Okay. More specifically about the REABILITA CAL CS, we have some information here about the product itself, but as I told you, it's an NHL-based mortar with a coarse sand. It comes in a 25 kilo bag, and it's mostly characterized by a strong adhesion and its high resistance to salts for the consolidation or reinforcement of old masonry walls. Now, after the consolidation, we have the renders, and I showed you earlier the REABILITA CAL RB. It's our NHL-based render, typical render for leveling. It comes on a 25 kilo bag, and it's the commonly used for leveling of substrates on top of consolidation mortar or directly onto bricks or blocks where the substrate doesn't need to be consolidated. You can paint it, you can see a picture here of the substrate painted. Of course, it's a medium type sand. It's not like the most pretty finish available. That's why we recommend mostly the AC finish on top of this render. Also, instead of applying the REABILITA CAL RB, if by any chance, and I think this pathology is more common than most pathologies we see. I think this is the most common, either on rehabilitation old buildings, but also, unfortunately, on new construction. Sometimes we see a lack of concern about the rising damp issues of the terrain, about the inclination of the terrain against the buildings, and the non-existence of a horizontal barrier to prevent the rising damp of moisture that will eventually affect internal and external walls and internal and external finishes. Even more when the finish or the paint is non-breathable. So what happens is the salts created in the interior of the mortars, they tend to evaporate to the outside, creating the accumulation of salts and pushing these layers, non-breathable layers, creating detachment, creating bubbles on the blisters on the paints, for example. So this is a big problem. So what we recommend for these issues, either on new construction or in rehabilitation, is the use of REABILITA CAL MP. REABILITA CAL MP is not less than a NHL-based render, but with a very high porosity. We are talking about roughly 40% air in the interior. And what this allows is for the render itself to accumulate in these air pockets the salts, creating for rising damp. This is an in-between solution because we know for experience that sometimes solving the issues about rising damp, it is a very costly, it's a very expensive intervention. Sometimes you need to open ditches. You have to create ventilation all over the outside of the buildings. Sometimes this is a very costly procedure. So what we present here is an in-between solution that prevents, for a longer period of time, that prevents the appearance of this efflorescence and salts on the surfaces. So this could be a good solution on top of CS, on REABILITA CAL CS, and completing it with an NHL-based finish in exteriors or interiors. Okay, so as I said, high durability in presence of rising damp and salts, high vapor permeability, and also this is a product that can be hand applied or even sprayed in a spraying machine. Okay, very good. So another solution that we present in terms of renders, it's the possibility of increasing the thermal and acoustic performance of the walls, either internally or externally. For that reason, we have the EcoCore Lime. EcoCore Lime is, I think, one of the best examples of our R&D work, something we've developed some years ago, and a product that we have had many very good references along the years, because it's an NHL-based mortar that uses cork aggregates in its formulation, contributing for a thermal and also acoustic increased performance of the walls without compromising the compatibility with old substrates. So as you see from this scheme, the EcoCore Lime fits perfectly between the CS consolidation mortar and the finishing, okay? One of the things I want to point out here is also in terms of the finishing, because we are dealing with a thermal render, so we are dealing with a very lightweight render, more flexible render, that we recommend that the finish, the REABILITA CAL AC, is applied with a fiberglass mesh with a 4x4 or 5x5 millimeter opening mesh in the middle of the two layers of the AC. Okay, this way we are sure that all the superficial tensions are diluted by this mesh without having any cracks, and improving the resistance, mechanical resistance and durability of this system. EcoCore Climb, why the development of this product? Just to explain you very briefly. We talked first about the functional requirements we wanted for this mortar. So we wanted a good water tightness without compromising the vapor permeability. And we wanted this mortar to have a good thermal behavior, but also a very good acoustic behavior. For that, together with a good performance in terms of durability, internal comfort for the people that live in the houses, and also contributing for an energy reduction in terms of the money spent to heat and to cool down the houses. That's why we replaced mostly of the normal aggregates we would use, like lime, like calcareous aggregates, by cork aggregates. So, and this creating a thermal insulation and acoustic insulation render, which is very easy to apply either by hand or sprayed. It's a very lightweight, very nice to apply. It's made exclusively with NHL. In terms of acoustic properties, it can reduce up to 7 decibel in terms of the air sounds, and also an excellent behavior in freeze-thaw cycles with a very excellent deformability. One of the most recent developments we had was the improvement of the lambda value, which is now of 0.09, making it a T1 class according to the 9981 standard on thermal renders. Okay, this product comes in a 14 kilo bag with the volume of a normal bag, so you can see how lightweight this product is, and the consumption is also very low consumption for a render mortar or a thermal render mortar. Okay, this is the look of the finished render. Very good. Now passing on to the finishes, we have the REABILITA CAL AC that I showed you earlier, and what I can say, it's an NHL based finished mortar, and I think one of the most interesting things now is that aside from completing this solution with a silicate based paint, you can now use it already colored. So we have a wide range of colors available by order that we can supply, and they can be finished already with this color. We also have another interesting solution, which is REABILITA CAL AC Fino, and Fino in Portuguese means smooth. So this is a very smooth lime-based finish that can be used in interiors and in some areas in exteriors also. We tend to use it mostly in interiors, completing the system and making it a very smooth finish in terms of a lime-based mortar. What we recommend whenever you are not using a paint or silicate-based paint is in REABILITA CAL AC finish or in REABILITA CAL AC smooth finish is the use of a polysiloxane water repellent product. This is a transparent product with a good water vapor permeability, UV resistant, but it will definitely increase the durability of these finishes, preventing the water absorption and all the microorganisms that sometimes get accumulated on the facades, creating fungus and dirt and creating these problems in the facade that sometimes have to be cleaned to resolve. Okay, so these are some of the references I would like to show you in terms of the use of the REABILITA CAL system. Some of them are even UNESCO World Heritage, like this picture we are seeing here in the north of Portugal, but we also have a lot of references in Portugal and outside of Portugal, but I wanted to give you a little bit of the taste of our country and the rehabilitation we've been doing along these years in Lisbon, in Porto, in other areas of the country with our REABILITA CAL system, and I think they look pretty amazing. Most of them interventions, strong interventions, some of them connecting the old and the new, but definitely in terms of architecture and in terms of intervention, very beautiful buildings. And in the end here, another, this is a museum that is also UNESCO World Heritage in the center of the country. Okay, going on a little bit further, of course, we have also some specific products, mainly for structural reinforcement based on NHL. And here we have REABILITA CAL Inject, and as the name says, it's an injection grout for reinforcement of old masonry walls or old structures. For example, we have a lot of old Roman bridges that sometimes need to be reinforced, and because of the properties of NHL, of gaining resistance with the airs by capturing CO2, but also with the hydraulic properties, I would say it's the best solution for injection grouts. This is a mortar that can go up to 15 megapascal mechanical resistance, and it can be applied by gravity or by pump. Also, we have a high strength mortar called REABILITA CAL Force. This is to reinforce structurally buildings together with fiberglass mesh or carbon fiber mesh for seismic reinforcement. And this is a mortar that can be hand applied or sprayed with a resistance of around 15 megapascal also for reinforcement works. In the end, what I wanted also to focus was that NHL-based mortars, like I said in the beginning, they have to be fit for purpose. And the fit for purpose, sometimes the most relevant in detail is the strength of the mortars. And I wanted to leave you here an example, rough example of the resistance, the mechanical resistance of each one of these mortars I've presented. So REABILITA CAL CS, as we said, it's a consolidation mortar. It has to be strong enough to reinforce the walls. So this is a mortar that has a strength below 5 megapascal. For example, the renders are products that are roughly between 2.5 megapascal. The finishes are slightly not so strong. REABILITA CAL RJ around 2.5 or even less. And then the structural mortars around 15 megapascal. Okay. In terms of other solutions, I would like to focus a little bit on the RJ also, which is a repointing NHL mortar. This mortar is applied to stay on the facade. Of course, we recommend it to be protected with a polysiloxane water repellent. This is an example of the old aqueduct we did in Portugal. Also, we have REABILITA CAL Screed, which is a screed mortar, NHL-based mortar, that can be used in together with limecrete solutions or corkcrete solutions, or even in underheat floor solutions. And we also have adhesion mortars based on lime. This is for traditional tiling in floors or in walls, and this is a lime-based adhesion mortar with high deformability, suitable for porous coatings, and mainly compatible with lime-based substrates. This can be used over REABILITA CAL screed, or all over any screed based on lime, or even to fix traditional tiles in interiors or exteriors. Portugal has a long tradition with traditional tiles, and sometimes the rehabilitation on facades has to go through all these interventions with the consolidation renders and then their cal mortars. Very well, and in terms of lime-based products, I would like to finish with the ISOVT cork very shortly. This is an adhesion and leveling mortar for internal and external wall insulation that can be used either with cork insulation boards or wood fiber insulation boards. This is a lime NHL-based mortar with grinded cork in the interior. So it's a lightweight mortar with increased performance in terms of thermal properties, but also very easy to apply and with a low consumption. This was more or less what I wanted to show you in terms of our product range without taking much more time and just focusing on the properties basically of the NHL as the binder of these mortars, but without forgetting our heritage, our tradition, and our research and development in order to present our customers, our job sites with the best solutions possible, to make it easier for them to apply it, to make it easier for them to control the application, and to have the most durable and sustainable solutions available in the market. So I would say that we are almost on the clock. I thank you for your time, and I would pass now for the period of question and answers. And I believe we have two questions that I can answer. So we don't have the name, but I would say that one of the questions was, are the renders and plasters suitable for traditional lime washes? I would say definitely yes. So I think on most of the northern countries where we sell our NHL-based mortars, either they are completed with the silicate-based paints or very traditionally the lime washes. So the lime washes, even it's very used on the southern area of Portugal, but also very traditional in UK, in Ireland. So I would say it's perfectly compatible, and it's a very good way of finishing these types of renders. So the second question is, what is the maximum thickness you can apply on the EcoCork render? Okay, so this is I wouldn't say tricky. We usually recommend around 4 centimeter thickness in terms of the EcoCork lime. But if you use a reinforcement mesh, for example, the 40 by 40 millimeter mesh in between of the layer, you could go up to 6 centimeter in terms of the EcoCork lime, okay? But the most important would be to apply 2-3 centimeter layer, then apply the mesh in fresh, then let it dry, and then apply a new layer. Okay, I would say that this would be a good solution. Sometimes the alternative is to, when you have intervention on the interior and the exterior, to apply the EcoCork lime in both faces, and then you can more or less divide, put 4 in the outside, 2 in the inside, but this could be also a good solution. Okay, very good. I would say that we don't have any more questions. What I would say is would like to thank you all for participating in this webinar. I hope it was helpful to understand some of our solutions. This webinar is being recorded, so we will send the link for you to access it also. And also this presentation will be available. So we'll send it also so you can download it and use it whenever you want. All my contacts and details are present in this presentation also. So I would say feel free to send me an email with any questions or any doubts you might have. And I think, do we have another question? Yes. So I think we'll go back because we are still in time. So we will go back to another question. Let me see. Okay, so we have another question. Do you add any cementitious additives to your render products? No. REABILITA CAL range, we are proud to say that it's 100% NHL-based mortars. So we try to make it. Of course, I said we use additives, but the binders are all NHL-based binders, natural hydraulic lime. So, and the additives that we use are usually air entrainment agents or something to control the setting time, but nothing that will have a direct impact in the performance or durability of these mortars. So we want to make them as more natural as possible. I hope this answered to your question. So once more, it was a pleasure. I hope you enjoyed this time with us. And feel free to contact me with any question or doubts, and I'm available to answer by email or by phone any doubt you might have. So it was a pleasure. I would like to wish you a very good afternoon and a good weekend to all of us. I heard in UK the weather is perfect right now, probably 33 degrees, so enjoy, okay? Thank you very much and see you soon.